This is your friendly neighborhood atheist. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ask an Atheist. I'm your host, Ethan, and alongside me today, notes from Autumn. Autumn.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for agreeing to do this interview.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
So this is your first time on any YFNA stream. So if you could tell everyone a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I'm Autumn from the YouTube channel Notes from Autumn. I make videos on TikTok, but I like to talk about things. So I'm an atheist activist, but I like to talk about religion and skepticism from using psychology, sociology, biology, less so on the philosophy side. I'm getting better with philosophy and logic and logical fallacies and all that, but I'm more of a psychology person, I guess.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
And how long have you been an atheist for?
Okay, so I've been using the atheist label only for a couple of years, but I would say I became an atheist in 2016. I just used the agnostic label at first because I was more comfortable with that label.
Right.
And then I kind of heard some alternative definitions of atheism. And I was like, I think that would spark more conversation with theists if I called myself an atheist, because agnostic, I felt like, gave people the impression that I didn't care about these conversations or that I don't think about these things. And I really do. And so I was like, I think although atheist, that label could have a lot of baggage, I think it would spark more interest and people having these dialogues with me.
Why are you an atheist? Why don't you believe?
Well, that's I think a really long answer. So I guess it would be I was raised Christian and I had this really solid belief in God, and I never really doubted throughout my youth until my early 20s. And then I basically had a lot of doubts and cognitive dissonance the more I learned new information. And then I started listening to Christopher Hitchens' debate, and I was like, oh gosh, he's actually got some really good points. And it of course I would want to have faith and believe in God, but it was just unsettling because there was these other arguments and this other information that made a lot of sense too. And eventually it's I didn't even have a choice. One day it's funny, I was actually talking to a little kid about what they believe and how, because a child that I know used to believe in God and then basically realized that they didn't, and they were talking to me about it. And I really liked the way that they explained it. They were like, I don't know, I just woke up like that one day. One day I just couldn't believe in God anymore, even though I wanted to. So there was kind of a grieving process for me because I was very connected with my church. I was very connected to my beliefs, and it's very meaningful to me. And I had a bad impression about what it meant to be an atheist or what it meant to not believe. And so I thought I was going to have all these problems, and I was going to, it was going to be really scary for me. So it's sorry, I feel like I'm answering your question really long, but
so ramble. This show is about the guest, so ramble as long and as much as you want.
Okay, but yeah, so I guess it's why am I an atheist? I don't know. I guess I became unconvinced about Christianity, and I didn't reconstruct anything else but humanism. I didn't become convinced of another deity. I became convinced about things in reality, like love and community. And I'm convinced of a lot of great things about reality, but I'm not convinced of a lot of things outside of this reality.
What do you mean when you say you're convinced by a lot of great things in reality?
So, I guess what I'm saying is there's evidence for having love and community and connection. And so I don't think life is meaningless. I'm not a nihilist. I'm convinced of a lot of things. I'm passionate about a lot of things, and I find there to be good evidence for those things to be healthy and beneficial, but I don't think believing in a God, at this point, I don't find it beneficial because like, what would that, how would that serve me? Like, I don't see any reason to, I just don't see any evidence for a God, I guess.
Okay. Why is atheist activism important to you?
Yes. So when I say atheist activism, I more mean like I'm advocating for critical thinking and skepticism. I don't think people using the atheist label is important. And I don't think making people not believe in something like a higher power is important. It's more just like having a good justification for your beliefs is important. Good information is important, and like healthy skepticism is important. And so that, like, basically the misinformation that gets passed around religious circles in particular, but also the misinformation that gets passed around in certain political circles can be quite harmful. And so I think if people have critical thinking skills and healthy skepticism, it would help them to avoid harm. So this is all about harm reduction. It's not about me being right and you being wrong as a theist. It's about facilitating conversations that make people question, and giving them alternative information that I didn't necessarily have before when I was a Christian, or if I had the information, I didn't want to accept it because of certain biases that I had. And so I guess I was thinking about it today in my car on the way home because I was like, I get into a lot of back and forth on Twitter and TikTok in particular. Like, I'm less engaged on YouTube because it's like you have to invest more in that content. But short little content like Twitter and TikTok, I can just do intermittently while I work. And so I get in all these back and forth, and my goal is to have healthy dialogues, but sometimes I'll get into like these arguments where I know I'm kind of hurting the other person, and maybe not intentionally hurting them to like be mean, but like it's like necessary to let people know the truth and to be honest, and so like in the way that Christopher Hitchens kind of hurt me, like and certain atheists kind of hurt me with the truth, I'm going around and hurting other people with what I believe to be true, I guess. And so it's like, it's kind of unfortunate that it has to be painful sometimes because people are really connected to their beliefs. But in the long term, I think ultimately the healthiest thing is to have better tools for navigating this life. And I don't know that religion necessarily offers the best coping mechanisms for navigating through this life.
I had a friend, very, very Christian, who said they started questioning their beliefs because of me and they felt like shit. I started to feel bad because I'm like, I'm hurting this person. And I was talking to a few other YouTubers about it, and their reply was, you're not the one who hurt them. It was the people that brainwashed them or indoctrinated them with the religion that did it. You're just telling them the truth.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But at the same time, it's like in that moment,
you feel it.
Yeah, it's like, I know that how defensive they feel and how scary it is to like let go of some of those beliefs because they are comforting, and you find new things that are comforting. Like, there's so much hope after religion, but I know that the process is painful and it's a lot. So it's like, I want to be a part of this because I ultimately think it's for the greater good that people really think through these things and really have all the information. But yeah, it's tricky. I'll say that.
It is. Now, one of the points of this show is to highlight the differences between all atheists. And one thing I am wondering is if you hold any supernatural beliefs, because believe it or not, there are some atheists who do believe in ghosts and souls, which does bewilder me, but they do believe it. Where are you at on any other supernatural or paranormal claims?
I don't hold any like positive beliefs in those things. I wouldn't say I believe in those things. Am I open to being convinced of something that I'm unaware of? Of course. Like I think a good skeptic should be, right? I am aware that you can call your use the atheist label, and like there's that cult, the Raelians, they use the atheist label, but they believe in a bunch of like alien stuff. And
Raelians?
yeah,
Like,
it's like a whole sex cult called the Raelians.
how do you spell that?
I don't know. I'm not a good speller.
Raelian.
But they use the atheist label, and then they have these really strange, like, paranormal beliefs. I don't know if you'd use the word paranormal because that's about ghosts, but they believe in like aliens and stuff, or like supernatural stuff.
Raelianism is a UFO religion that was founded in 1970s in France by Claude Voron. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
And they are atheists?
They use the atheist label, yes.
Interesting.
Because they don't believe in a god, they believe in aliens.
Well, see, and that's not all atheists are skeptics.
Right.
Do you think you can be a skeptic and believe in God?
Yeah. I think that it should take really good evidence to convince you of a god, but I think it's possible that one day, like, okay, so I'll put it this way. I thought that there was nothing that could convince me that the Christian God wasn't real and that Christianity wasn't true. And that was my reality until I was 24 years old. And so, like, for my world to come undone once, sometimes I'm just waiting for it to happen again. I don't think I'm going to become convinced of Christianity. Reality would ultimately have to change. Like evidence in reality would ultimately have to change for me to become convinced of Christianity. That wouldn't make any sense. But if something comes undone again, where there's this thing outside this universe that I find evidence for, then of course I would change my mind. That's what a good skeptic should do. A good skeptic, we don't want to go into hyper skepticism of I hold this position and this is the logical position based off of all the information that I've had so far. So right. Even when confronted with alternative information, I'm not going to change my mind. That's hyper skepticism, not skepticism. And we want healthy skepticism.
I always called it negative skepticism, but hyper skepticism might be a better word.
Yeah, I think so. Not tooting my own horn. I didn't invent the word, but I think it's a good word.
I didn't take it like that at all. So I've noticed that, most atheist YouTubers have a lot of other topics aside from just religion and God that they'd like to cover. What other things are you into?
Oh man, I don't know if we want to cross that bridge. I really like UBI. I really like the idea of, people getting a fair wage.
Same.
and no billionaires. Basically I'm kind of a socialist, not hardcore in the sense that people normally, I don't know. It's I don't like capitalism. I'll just say that. I don't. And I don't know if people will hate me for saying that, but I really I think I like life more collectivistic, working together, and I don't like competition. And that's how I view the atheist community. When other people are making the same content as me, I don't view them as the competition. I want to work with them. I want them around me. A couple of friends of mine just told me they were taking a break from making atheist content, and I was genuinely sad. I wasn't oh yay, more views for me. No, I want to work with you. I want to be on a team. So I guess that's why I feel the way that I do. So I guess I would want to eventually maybe talk about some of my ideas, but I'm also I'm not that much into economics, so maybe it would just all be utopian pipe dreams. I don't know. But I like that. I like thinking about that kind of stuff.
I agree. And I would love to hear more of your ideas, because that's, what we're trying to build here is a network and community of people, and hopefully one day we'll get the Atheist News Network off the ground.
Nice.
But you weren't really specific on any other like things you like to talk about. Like, some are are into diversity or LGBTQIA
Oh yeah,
plus.
yeah.
Like, what are some other things that are a part of you or important to you?
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like that stuff I haven't talked about yet. I do talk about LGBTQ stuff. Like, I am bi. I actually didn't come out as bi until like a few months ago. Like, I have known for quite a long time now, but I guess I just like, I don't know. I didn't know if it was important to come out, and I was also kind of deconstructing sexuality like a lot slower than I deconstructed Christianity. Like, I feel like I deconstructed so many things after Christianity, so I talk about those things, like deconstructing gender, deconstructing sexuality, deconstructing societal norms, and so I like to talk a lot about that stuff, and I like to talk a lot about science, like. I know it's kind of a cliche for like atheists to be super into science, but I just am. Like, I'm a huge nerd, so I love talking about psychology, and explaining things through that lens, because learning psychology helped me make sense of life a lot better than I did before I knew a lot about psychology. Like, I was like, oh, this is like therapeutic because now I understand. Like,
Right.
I don't know. So
No, I get that, because like for me, I do a mental health show with Jenna Belk, and talking about and learning more about my own mental health has done a lot. Like, one thing I'm trying to look more into is, autism and being on the spectrum, because I find with the ADHD, I have many overlapping symptoms, especially how I am socially.
mhm.
People see me on camera and they see like friendly and outgoing, but I always like to remind people before I meet that I get super socially anxious, and I'll be like, hey, like way more quiet and reserved. I don't like to be touched.
Yeah, I like the term neurodivergent because we're finding out so much more that like with autism or ADHD, everything's on a spectrum. So
Yes.
I like that term neurodivergence becoming more like available to people, because then there's not this like, oh, you're this one label and this one idea of this diagnosis, which we don't even want to call it a diagnosis, because like, for instance, with ADHD, we know that was like an evolutionary benefit. Like, it's a beneficial trait. You know all about that, I'm sure.
No.
So like basically in the hunter-gatherer stage, people with ADHD would have been really helpful and useful because they would have been able to like hunt for a lot of food and get like bring a lot back to like the tribe. And so even though they had like this extra, and I'm talking about people with extra like energy, and maybe you can't
Okay.
sit still in like a classroom setting, but you have these other, your predisposition has
Right.
like these other skill sets that you can build, and so yeah, so they might have been like spearing a lot of fish for their community or whatever and bringing it back. So it would
Well,
have
I
been
mean,
like
I
a
guess.
benefit instead of a diagnosis.
Right. I mean, I do sometimes joke that ADHD is a superpower. I mean, it's what's allowed me to do limitless amounts of streams on my channel multiple times a week. It's like I have the energy to just keep going and going. But I wish there was more of a conclusive way to diagnose ADHD. Like, for like some type of brain test or blood test where they can be like, yeah, this is your severity, you do have this, here's the best medication for it. If they do have something like that, please let me know. But my diagnosis came after answering like a questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
The psychiatrist was like, well, you have overlapping symptoms with BPD, but you have one additional symptom with ADHD, so we're going to say you have that. And to me, that's not very conclusive.
Yeah. I feel like we're learning more and more where like the diagnosis is messy and like not clear right now, because I feel like a lot of people have been misdiagnosed with bipolar and they don't actually have bipolar. They maybe like had like trauma and then got misdiagnosed with it, or a lot of people with ADHD have been misdiagnosed with bipolar. So I feel like it's like the labels can be helpful, and like of course I believe in medicine, but at the same time, like I think we should be able to like adapt to new information. Like that's why it's good to just keep an open mind if there's better evidence for that to suggest that there's better ways to talk about these things and better ways to like help people with. I see, and I struggle because I don't even want to say it's like a problem. Like I feel like sometimes like the way our society is set up is the problem. Like we weren't always meant to be just sitting in classrooms and offices. Like we earlier humans were outside walking and exercising a lot of the day. And so we weren't as sedentary. And I think that's where a lot of depression and anxiety comes from, is like we are more sedentary now. So it's like we have all these diagnoses, but really like sometimes I feel like we're diagnosing the person when we should be changing how we structure our day-to-day lives. I don't know. Like maybe that's a reach, but that's how I feel right now. That's what I'm thinking.
Expand on that? Like, what do you mean?
So it's like now we have kids sitting in classrooms for 8 hours a day, and the average person works like a 40-hour week. And you know, if you have two people in a home, like I'm single, so like I work full time, but then even if you have two people in a home, both people are working, no one's taking care of the house. And so everybody's working these jobs for 40 hours a week, and then also doing stuff at home and maybe commuting. So we're working a lot, and a lot of us have really sedentary jobs, so we're not exercising as much. So it just is really stressful. Like it sounds like a lot of stress on the mind and the body that earlier humans didn't put themselves through, and I don't know if it's healthy.
I'm a fan of a 4-day work week, like they've implemented in some other countries. I wish America would implement that, but unfortunately here, capitalism, it's all about work, and how much can we get out of our employees. And
right, or even if not a 4-day work week, like maybe a 6-hour work day. Because like if we're accounting, like people's commutes have gotten longer and longer, so that also becomes like work that they do. Yeah, like well, at least in California, like people's commutes are crazy here, and that's been that way for as long as I can remember. Like my dad commutes to Los Angeles from San Diego. So like now he stays up there. But anyways, that's just anecdotal. But all I'm saying is like, you know, I don't know. I see, that's why I'm not a fan of capitalism. It's all this like competition and work hard and like not as much about like the experience of life and community. And like I believe in work. I like work. Like I think we naturally want to work. That's the misconception that I think a lot of people have about people, is that like you have to like motivate them to work and like force them with carrots and sticks to work. But I think we naturally want to do it, which is why you and I do this atheist stuff. Like even if we weren't going to make any money, like
I don't know about you, but for me, running this channel costs money.
Right. Yes. I've spent more on, that is so true. I've spent more on atheist activism than I've ever made. I think I've made like $20 total, and I've invested like hundreds of dollars in equipment and stuff like that. So totally.
And it's like anytime you get some equipment, you're like, it's just isn't good enough. And you know, you really want to continue to step it up so people take you seriously as a professional. So, you know I've been using the same mic for a long time, a Blue Yeti, but soon it's going to be time to upgrade my camera, upgrade my mic, update. I'm doing all of this on a laptop right now. So there's a lot I have to do. And I still, I don't know if you know, I moved about two weeks ago. So unfortunately, I don't have any of my sound panels up, and all I got is this lame white background, which is driving me nuts.
Oh, I don't think it looks bad. It's got
it's kind of tacky. And see how the lighting, it's darker over here, lighter over here. Like, not
See,
a fan.
I thought that looked fine. Okay, well, yeah, I'm not the tech person. I'm not a big like tech. I'm more about like ideas than the tech stuff. I mean, tech stuff can be really cool, but I don't understand a lot of it at the same time. So
I just, for me, I want to have like as professional look as possible. And then also, I want it to sound as good.
yeah, well, that's understandable.
So there was a question I wanted to ask you based off what you said, but unfortunately, with my ADHD, the thoughts just go right out the window.
Okay.
But in terms of capitalism, one of the things I've grown frustrated with, especially recently, is how many people on the right just make posts like, get a job, you don't need another handout, you need to be working. And it's like, it's not that simple. People are slaving for such little, working very hard for such little money.
Mm-hmm.
And while other people are making millions, hundreds of millions, billions, and these people are suffering and giving their lives to a job, unable to get the mental or medical health care they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I'm glad you're bringing this up because I feel like the people who argue for that who argue the way that you're speaking of, I feel like there's two like easy things we could bring up when it comes to psychology that kind of explain that mindset. And this is just my speculation, but so there's survivorship bias. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
Okay, so survivorship bias is basically focusing on the people who quote unquote survive. So like if you're in an MLM and you're losing money, you're going to focus on the people who told you they made it, or you are the person who made it. So you're making it in capitalism. You got your degree, you got a well-paying job, and you were able to put in the work and receive the payoff. And so you're like, well, if I can do it, other people can. And you focus on the survivors. So it's either yourself or someone else who is surviving the situation or doing well in the situation. And you kind of filter out all the people who fail or aren't doing as well. And you dismiss them by saying like, well, they must not have worked hard enough or something must be wrong with them, kind of like an attribution error thing. So like attributing it to the person rather than the system, because the system is working for some people. So that's survivorship bias. And then you have sunk cost fallacy, which I'll just explain for I figured you might. But I'll explain for our audience. Sunk cost fallacy is basically you can invest in a group, idea, or thing, and you become attached to it. We are a being. We are animals that form attachments. So the more we invest in things, the more we become attached to them. And if you've invested in an idea like capitalism or a business or something of the sort, then you're going to want to make arguments to protect the thing you've invested in, even if it's not working. Because unfortunately, I think our attachments win out over logic or information or counter arguments or whatever you want to say. Like, I think a lot of the time attachment wins out, and kind of circling back to the whole like deconstructing Christianity thing, that totally applies there too. Like you formed an attachment to this ideology, or as I would have called it as a Christian, this God. And even if there are really compelling arguments, it's going to take a lot to undo that attachment, because that's how we are just as animals, right? So yeah.
That's how I've definitely seen my family and some of my close friends essentially, in the sunk cost fallacy when it comes to the Republican or conservative party, to the point that like simply asking them a question gets them to lash out. And it's like, I'm just asking you a question, and they get really mad or start crying. And it's like, I don't understand that, because from my perspective, I could be wrong about anything at any point. And when someone corrects me on something, I'm like, oh, okay, new information, I'll get rid of this. It's so easily for me to just dismiss things I've held on to now.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten better at that too, like just reconstructing after something's been debunked. But I'm like, I'll have moments where I'm like, oof, like I was wrong about that and that doesn't feel good. But I don't feel as like desperate to protect something as I did with Christianity. I hold on a lot more loosely to ideas so that I can reconstruct if I'm confronted with alternate information. So I can relate to that. I think like again, I'll say I'm not perfect at it. There are obviously I have biases. I have ideas that I'm probably attached to that are wrong, but I do find it a lot easier now. Like I think going through that process of like deconstructing Christianity must have given us a skill to be able to reconstruct. Maybe I'd actually, that'd be an interesting thing to look into, like why you can change your mind, or if at least it feels like to both of us, why it feels like we can change our minds more easily.
I don't know. I think maybe for me, I just got so used to being wrong that because I turned over my political and religious indoctrination that I just got comfortable like just being wrong about anything.
Also, I think maybe realizing that being wrong is not a moral failure, because I think we kind of were conditioned not only with Christianity, but like in school, if you get a bad grade, you get a question wrong, you get punished like with the bad grade, or you get punished socially for getting things wrong. And so you kind of have this idea a lot of the time, or one could have this idea a lot of the time, that being wrong is a moral failure. And it's kind of tied in with Christianity too, right? Because truth and goodness are the same in Christianity. Like being good and having the truth are the same. And you can ultimately have the best intentions and be wrong. So we found that out. So maybe we don't view it as much as a moral. Now I'm speaking for you, but I don't view it as much as a moral failing.
I agree. So Autumn, we have some exciting news, I think, right?
Yeah.
Would you like to share it? Or do you want me to share it?
Yeah, I don't care. Actually, someone on Twitter was like, oh, it must be, I was tweeting about my area rug yesterday that I was really excited to get it. And then you said we had exciting news. Like we're going to announce that I got a new area rug. So everybody, I got a new area rug for my place.
Sorry, I don't even know what an area rug is.
It's like, so I don't have carpet at my place. It's like fake wood. And so I got like a nice looking rug for an area part of my place. That's all. Oh. It's literally like an area rug. No, but I'm gonna be taking over this show, I guess. Like that's the exciting news.
Yes, not I guess.
Okay, I am going to take over this show. It just feels weird, like I'm just taking your show. But yes, I'm going to be hosting Ask an Atheist. So there you go.
Yeah. Next week, Cynthia McDonald will be on. So Autumn will be stepping in. And I think the show with her at the helm will improve.
Nice, thanks.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I have all these show ideas, but I want to put other people on camera. I don't need to be on camera for all this stuff, especially because there are some really great voices in the community that have far more to contribute than I do. So hopefully I'll continue to create shows and get more just like behind the scenes.
Nice. Well, I'm really excited and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I'll have to figure out a background that brings out my eyes as much as yours, because I'm like mesmerized. Your eyes are so blue. I'm like, I gotta find something that brings out the hazel, because I could probably do it if I get the right lighting. I've been told I have nice eyes too, so I gotta figure out how to make them pop like you do.
You do. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I mean, all I have is a light, a cam. I don't know how I'm making them pop. I do know if I wear like blue usually helps, but if I wear like a lighter blue, they pop even more, which I like.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll figure it out. I'll do some color. I'll put paint on the walls and figure. I'm just kidding. But
as a prerequisite, you don't have to have nice eyes to host Ask an Atheist.
Oh, Well, why did I even apply then? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
So, Autumn, what else do you have going on?
Let's see. Well, what do I have going on? I'm having.
Releasing soon. Are you going to be on any other channels?
I'm going on the Neil's the 604 Atheists channel to talk about my deconstruction story. I have a YouTube channel. I have a TikTok. All of it's notes from Autumn. So Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, which I don't really use, but YouTube, everything's notes from Autumn. So I'm really easy to find. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have much going on. I'm just having regular conversations with theists and being a nerd online, I guess.
Well, you've been on a couple like call-in shows too, haven't you?
Yeah, so I go on the line sometimes. I've been on Truth Wanted, and I'm gonna do nonprofits in July. So,
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Oh wow, they're booking pretty far out now.
Yeah. They must have a good lineup then. So good for them.
Hell yeah. Autumn, thank you for taking the time to sit down with me today, and I look forward to you taking over the show in the future. Everyone else, thanks for tuning in, and have a good night.
Thanks.